Morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel, Jesse's Occupational Awareness Show. As always, I'm your host, Jesse. Here we are with another Sunday video. Before we get into that, I've had a couple of viewers comment and ask questions. What's with the name of the channel? All I do is talk about prison stuff, but yet it's called Jesse's Occupational Awareness Show. Well, when I first started this channel a little over a year ago, I had intentions to talk about my time with TDC, the Marine Corps, and the Coast Guard. Well, anytime I tried to do Marine or Coast Guard videos, I would get an instant influx of backlash from viewers who simply wanted to hear about prison stories. So I pretty much scrapped the idea of talking about those other occupations, but the name stuck. So rather than changing it, throwing off the algorithms of everything here on YouTube, the name is what it is. So we're not here to talk about the title of the channel though. We're here to talk about y'all's favorite subject, prison stories with Jesse. Maybe that's what the name I should change it to, or if I ever decide to do a new channel, maybe that's what I'll call it as. So anyway, what are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk about a very nasty subject. Viewer discretion is advised in this one. It is a prison show, so you're going to hear some nasty things. Today, we're going to talk about chunking, also known as doshing, also known as exposure to bodily fluids. I think that was the actual official charge listed in the offender crime handbook. That's not what it was called, but there was a handbook that we had that listed every offense that offenders could do that we could write them up for, and they were listed in order of most offense on down. And one of those that was really high up was exposure to bodily fluids. So, what does that actually mean? What is chunking? Chunking is when an inmate makes a cocktail, a concoction, a group of substances, mixes them all together, and finds some way whatsoever to expose an individual to those. It could be from a container, it could be from their hands, wrapped up in a shirt or a sock, any way that they could find to deliver it. I can't speak much for general population. I don't know how prevalent it was in Gen Pop, but I do know that in segregation it happened all the freaking time. So let's break it down to its bare basics. All right, I'm an inmate. I'm in my cell, and one day for lunch, they're passing out trays, and instead of giving us not lunch, I'll do even better, breakfast. One of the things that we would pass out a lot of times for breakfast was little containers of cereal. The square little plastic small container, you peel the lid off of it, and you pour a little bit of milk in there. All right. A lot of times those would get passed out, and the milk would either come in one of the little half-pint containers, or we had it in the pitcher and we would pour it in the cup that the inmate would have. If they didn't have a cup, well, we weren't supposed to give it to them. But a lot of times they had some kind of other container, a bowl that they had gotten from the commissary. There were state-bought cups that they could get from the commissary, so a lot of times they pass that out through the cell, and we give them that milk. Well, instead of eating the cereal, they could let that milk just sit and sour and get warm and get nasty. If they didn't have any other kind of container, they had that little cereal bowl container, and they could put anything nasty inside of it. Disclaimer, foul language, shit, piss, blood, spit, sweat, funk that had grown inside the cell from either the floor or the walls, anything you could think of that could just ferment, rot, and get nasty. They'd mix it all together inside this thing and wait for the attack. So who was the target? Target could have been anybody. It could have been a CO that they had some kind of beef with, me. Could have been another inmate. It was difficult for seg inmates to get to each other. In fact, it was almost impossible. The only times they moved around when we took them out of the cells was cuffed behind their back. They went straight to the day room, the outside rec room, or the shower, back to their cells. They were never, ever roaming around freely. So it was extremely difficult for them to get to each other. The only time they could really do it was through their cells. So in segregation, typically it was the staff that was the target. General population, I'll tell a story about one that I had heard about in turnout. General population, Gen Pop, I don't know how often it actually happened. It was easy for them to get to each other. You could be standing there finishing up your count, face in your count sheet, inmate walk right up to you, slap you right in the face. He'd do that, turn around, put his hands behind his back, and that was it. If the officer retaliated, if the officer tackled, took him to the ground, gave him a beatdown, excessive force. Unless the inmate started putting up any other kind of resistance, there really wasn't anything the officer could do except write him up for assault at that point. They called it the TDC drive-by. Walk up, slap you in the face, and offer no other resistance. They would do that for various reasons as well. Sometimes it was to get a housing change, classification change, getting jumped into one of the little gangs that they were trying to get set up in one of the pods, or they were just in the mood to go up and slap an officer for whatever reason. Pause for hydration here. Dog days of summer, folks. Got to stay cool, got to stay hydrated. So once again, I don't know how often it happened in TDC, but in SEG, it happened quite often. What they would do, the time that the officer was the most vulnerable was serving chow. We'd open the food slot, the slot would pop open. It was maybe about that long, about that wide, just wide enough you could pass a food tray through. You could stick your arm through it. They couldn't climb out of it, couldn't use it as an escape route. But that was the time when you popped that slot and you were getting ready to put that food tray down there. That was when that arm or that hand could come out and they could throw it and fling it on you. And just depending on what it was absolutely nasty. All right. I can't speak for the other units at TDC, but at Styles, it's a medical unit. Most of the inmates that are there have some kind of a communicable disease. AIDS, HIV, you name it, go down the list. I think the thought process was take all the guys that have diseases, group them together, they can infect each other. It was a way to control the infection. I can't honestly confirm that. That's my thought. That's my speculation. If I had 10 dudes that had diseases and I got to put them somewhere, what am I going to do? Am I going to expose them to the other 100 people that are around it? No. I'm going to put all 10 of those guys together. Go ahead and infect each other. Whatever. It's contained. So I think that's how it's done. Other delivery methods, they had all different kinds of ways. A lot of the guys had plastic cups that they had bought from the commissary. There was a while that we were passing out styrofoam cups. If the inmate didn't have a cup, we would open the slot, we'd put the food tray in. They'd take the food tray, they'd give us whatever kind of cup they had, and we'd put the juice in it. The red, the orange, milk for the diets. I don't remember the other colors. Mostly it was red and orange. Nasty, cheap-ass Kool-Aid punch. If they didn't have a cup, we weren't supposed to give them anything. They put a bowl out. I think they were supposed to get 8 ounces of juice. That was the average size of the cup. They'd give us a bowl. They'd give us some kind of container. They'd stick their hands out, whatever. Well, enough complaints had finally got out that these guys are indigent. They weren't able to buy their own cups. TDC wasn't providing for them. So each meal, we were supposed to set down one of the styrofoam little solo cups, put the beverage in it, inmate would take it. We basically were giving them their weapons to chunk and dosh on individuals. All right. They'd take the cup and they'd mix up anything in it. They would crap in it, piss in it, cut themselves, drip blood in it. All right. A lot of times the ones that did it, they had some kind of a nasty disease, and they were looking to expose the individual to that disease to possibly infect the individual. The worst thing about it HIPAA laws protect these individuals. All right, scenario. I'm walking down, I'm getting ready to start serving chow. I pop a slot's open. I reach down to the tray carrier, take the tray, and as I've got it in my hand and I'm starting to hand it out, dude takes the styrofoam cup, flings it, gets stuff all down my face. Okay, he's good at it. And this guy is HIV positive, just as positive as he can be. Cool. All right, I get that stuff exposed to me. I go to medical. By HIPAA law, they can't reveal what the inmate has. They can't tell me he's HIV positive. They can't tell me I need to go to the hospital and I need to get checked out and examined for any of this stuff. All they could say was that I might have been exposed to something and I should probably go get checked out. That's all they could do. They couldn't say, this guy's HIV positive, you need to go get examined immediately. So the laws definitely work for those guys, and they knew it, and they would use that to their advantage. So some of the other ways that they could do it, when we'd have those milk containers, they would open the top of it up. The little half-pint milk containers like you got in the cafeteria or wherever else. They could take that thing, fill it up with all that nasty stuff. There was a little gap in between the wall and the door where the door would slide on its railing. They could crimp the top of that carton, shove it in the crack of that thing, and when somebody got close enough down the side, they smash it, and the contents that were inside it would squirt out. Most of it would get on the wall. Other stuff, it would hit the wall, bounce off. It would definitely get on the individual that they were trying to get it on. Typically, it was the officer. So that was another kind of a delivery method. Now, why do these guys do this? Number one, they're just sick-ass individuals. Nobody that was in SEG and Styles was there for singing bad in the church choir. They were all in there. I don't give a fuck what you think. They were all in there for some kind of nasty-ass, heinous crime. So they didn't care whatsoever. And if they got to spread around their disease, they were happy to do it. They're just mean-ass, evil individuals. Okay? Take that for what it's worth. At least the ones that I dealt with. So they'd make up these nasty concoctions, and they were ready to expose it to somebody. They had all different kinds of individual reasons. They either had a beef with a particular officer, the pill nurse didn't give them enough, gave them the wrong medicine, or they were just having a bad day, and they were ready to expose the pill nurse. The chaplain who would come in and try to scripture to them, they put that nasty shit on the chaplain. Or when the assistant warden would come in and get ready to do his rounds, they try to target him because that would elevate their status at that point. Look what I did to the fucking warden. And then everybody else would just hoot and holler from it, and they'd get whatever kind of status they were at. Other times it was done because they were ordered to. They owed some kind of a gambling debt. They bet on a game on Sunday, lost, didn't have a way to pay it. Hey, next officer that comes in, chunk his ass. And they do it. And then when they did, their debt was repaid. So, bad stuff. The one I was going to tell you about, this occurred in general population. I don't know when the actual incident actually occurred. We were told about it during turnout one morning as part of training. All right. They used to offer in commissary baby oil and hair grease. I don't think it's available anymore. I know COVID changed a lot of the commissary items. I don't think it's available at all in the least bit. Microwaves are not accessible to the individuals. Some prisons do have them. Maybe some facilities in TDC do. Styles did not. Not even in general population. At least the buildings that I worked in, they didn't have it. They had to have other ways they could heat their food up. They make what they call stingers. Little electrical items. I'm not even going to talk about how they do it. That would be a whole nother video. They could make up a contraband item that could heat up the water. This particular individual had a state-issued cup. Half baby oil, half water, heated it up to its boiling point. Comes out of his cell. He has his concoction in his mug. Looks like he's just ready to start drinking. All right. Goes up to whatever inmate he had beef with, throws it all over his face. Now just imagine scalding baby oil and water mixed together getting thrown on you. All right. What had happened, the guy's initial instinct, reflex, was to reach up and wipe it off. What he did, as soon as his hands touched his face, he embedded this scalding hot oil and water mixture into his face, and it just made it worse. If he tried to take his shirt and wipe it off, it would have been basically like wiping his face with sandpaper. I never saw a picture of the individual, but I can only imagine that it left him absolutely scarred, disfigured, possibly even blind if it got in his eyes. I don't know what beef they had with each other, but that was the situation. Boiling hot baby oil and water, bad stuff. So I think that probably started to put an end to the sales of that stuff in the commissary. Maybe. Like I say, I wasn't there. I just remember the story. I had been doshed on many times at TDC. Many times. I was, as funny as it may seem, I was not a popular officer. I did my job. Inmates hated me for it. That's what it was there for. The last time that I did get chunked on, it was pretty bad. All right. They could get peanut butter containers from the commissary. Crunchy, creamy, whatever it was, depending on what kind of money that they had for it. Once the item had been used, it was supposed to be thrown away. If it was used for anything else whatsoever, a plastic peanut butter container, if they were using it as a drinking bottle, that was contraband. It was supposed to be confiscated and discarded. That's what we were supposed to do during our cell searches. All right. Didn't happen as often as I would like to. This individual had a peanut butter container. He had a beef out for me. I told this story and why I resigned. This individual had a beef out for me because I wrote him up for assault on an officer with a weapon. Me and Campbell were passing out the food trays. This guy had a beef with Campbell. He popped his slot, threw his tray out at Campbell. Didn't hit him, but he tried. I wrote his ass up for it. All right. And Sergeant Briscoe, who was supposed to wait for the next shift to investigate the charge, decided to go ahead and get a jump start and investigate it while I was on shift. Well, now the offender knew that I had written him up for something, so he's got instant beef with me. All right. Me and Campbell finished feeding trays. We waited the couple of minutes we were supposed to wait. Now it's time to start slopping trays. That's where we go around with the garbage can on the rolling wheels and get back the empty trays from the inmates. Take it back to the kitchen, wash them off, get them ready for the next meal. This guy's cell was all the way at the end of it where the fire escape door was. We weren't supposed to use that fire escape door except for fire escapes. It led you into the next tier. What you had to do, you got to the last cell, walk all the way back around, and then start at the next cell. Or pop that door, go through it, go on from there. Violation of policy. Did I do it all the time? Yep. Less walking on your feet. So we weren't even going to go to this guy's cell. Me and Campbell had talked about it. Let's just say he was in number 14. The next one up on second tier going over to would have been 15. 15 on down to 21. 22. Yeah, 21. 22 would have been the next one down on the bottom. All right. They were in rows of 7. We weren't even going to go to his. We were going to stop at number 13, and we were going to go on from there. This guy must have known that, because when we got to 13, Campbell was talking to the guy, I think in either cell 11 or 12. He wasn't beside me. I know that. I popped the slot, got the guy's tray, and I hear, "Hey, fuck you, Carter." And I heard metal clang. I looked over. The offender had manipulated his food slot. He had defeated the locking mechanism, was able to push it open. His arm came out, and he flung from a plastic bottle, I don't know what was originally in it, just all kinds of mess and everything in it. I was standing to the side, and as I looked over at him, I turned, and it splashes all over the side of my face, down my body armor, and I did exactly what they said not to do in the academy. When you get hit by it, you're going to look down at yourself, and you're going to look back at the inmate. And if they're ready, they're going to follow up. And that's exactly what the fuck happened. He dodged that shit all over me. It hit me in the face. I took my hand, wiped it, looked down at myself, put my hand on the holster where my pepper spray was, looked over at him, followed up with a second one. I saw his arm come out. I was able to turn, and it hit all over the back of my head, ran all down my back, and at that point, the place just absolutely erupted. All right. The guys knew down the tier that it was going to happen. At that point, Campbell was no longer the bad guy because I wrote the charge. I was the bad guy. Threw that nasty mess all over me. All I can think of, it was a mix of shit, piss, blood, whatever peanut butter was left over, whatever food we had served him there. He had mixed all that up, and whatever else there was for fermenting in that. This was a Hispanic guy in D-Pod, who absolutely hated me because of an incident that we had with the barber. All right. That was the last time that happened. At that point, I started rethinking my career intentions, and I had the opportunity to jump over to the Coast Guard, and I started the process right after that. So that's chunking for you guys in a nutshell. Folks, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope everyone's staying safe, staying out of this heat, stay hydrated. Watch out for the damn electric bills. I think mine's going to be about $300 this month. I'm not going to live in a hot house. I'm just going to do what I got to do. Everyone stay safe. Take care of yourselves. I'll see everyone in the next video.